Hi, I'm Tina Jens, and this is What's with All the Damn Zombies Anyway? Looking at the army of blood and sinew-spattered zombies shambling across the lawn, the three housemates had very different thoughts as they scrambled for safety. Gina sniffled quietly, not from fear, but from heartbreak. Jason, who put the leather and chrome stud in Stud Muffin, who had a sports car, a trust fund, and an affinity for kink that would have shocked a professional whore who was at the head of the undead horde. She thought it was sweet, in a post-apocalyptic, cheesy sort of way, when he used his own gooey entrails to lasso her as she ran for the door. A second zombie was just a shuffle step behind. Jared, Jason's best friend, and rival for Gina's affections. As the gore-covered corpse that just last night had been Jason knocked the lower jawbone and a flapping tongue off the monster formerly known as Jared, Gina thought it was romantic that he was protecting her even now from the other men. He'd showered her with jewelry when he was living. True to form, he slipped a necklace of blue braided veins beaded with blood clots and shards of bone over her head. He stroked her hair, leaving streaks of red lowlights in her golden curls, and gave her an open-mouthed kiss, with breath that was only slightly worse than when he'd been living. As he pressed her close, she felt a familiar bulge in his pants. Supernatural monsters had featured strongly in their bedroom games, and while Gina had more frequently fantasized about dying in the arms of a vampire, dying from a lover's zombie bite still managed to appeal to her bloodlust. Gooey little necromantic twit, Allison thought, as she watched from the safety of a subterranean window, Gina's jugular blood arc through the air. The first rule to surviving the zombie apocalypse is remembering that when the living die, they're dead. A walking corpse is just a meat shell wearing a skin mask. The soul done gone home, and you'll join it if you get squeamish about killing a monster wearing your loved one's face. Allison prided herself on being practical and prepared. After stopping at the garage and the kitchen to pick up critical supplies, she locked herself in the basement. It was her favorite room in the house. She was pursuing a master's degree in library sciences with a minor in ancient forbidden occult reference books. And it just didn't seem right to flip through an evil tome while sitting in the sunshine of a bay window. She spent far more time studying the gods and demons of other dimensions than the short list of cheap Hollywood monsters. But she knew this much. If they were voodoo zombies, all she needed to do was feed them salt. But if they were Romero zombies, she'd have to decapitate them. But how to tell which was which? She sat with a 10-pound bag of salt on her left side and a hedge trimmer-sized chainsaw on her right, and hoped she could find a few more helpful clues in her stolen occult texts before the zombies broke down the basement door. Salma heard the glass in the basement window break. The second rule to surviving the zombie apocalypse is remembering that zombies will go through a window more easily than a door, and being dead, they don't much care if their bodies get torn up. Her soon-to-be ex-roommate shrieked, "Eat salt, slime ball!" And Salma shook her head. It would never go down as one of the world's great war cries. She nodded knowingly as she heard the hedge trimmer's motor start up, sputter, and die. The third rule to surviving the zombie apocalypse is refill your gas tanks before the zombies arrive. But who remembers to top off the tanks of their lawn care equipment? The zombie rulebook had never said anything about their ability to play organized sports, though two teams appeared to be forming up sides in the backyard. From her vantage point on the roof, it looked like they were playing bocce ball with, yes, her two roommates' heads. The spinal cord still dragging behind Gina's skull as it rolled across the lawn. Selma knew she'd broken rule number 4 for surviving the zombie apocalypse, Never lock yourself in the basement or an upstairs bedroom because the zombies will always break down the door and eat you. But she hadn't stayed in the upstairs bedroom. She'd taken a hammer and nails and scavenged pieces of furniture to nail first the bedroom door shut and then the window she'd climbed through to reach the roof. From the roof, she could jump to a tree or the garage on either side of the house. She couldn't survive up here forever, but she didn't think she'd have to. Salma was scanning the road, looking for the blue Chevy truck she knew was coming. It would signal a rescue. She'd almost rather be eaten by the carnivorous cadavers than pay the cost. She'd been drunk. It seemed impossible, risk-free, so silly at the time. So yes, she finally agreed, hand to heart, sworn an oath, that she'd absolutely, positively have sex with Charlie Chuckles if the end of the world was upon them, brought about by nuclear holocaust, the apocalypse, or an army of the undead taking over the world. In hindsight, she wished she'd taken his claims of leading a black magic coven a little more seriously, listened a little more closely when he bragged that they'd harnessed a death demon from the third ring of hell, no less. Remembered a little sooner that he'd been caught down in the basement looking through Allison's books on 2 occasions. Not laughed at him last Friday when he'd suggested she could make things easier on everybody if she'd just do him now, back behind the bowling alley. He was going to want to wear the clown shoes while they did it. But even if he threatened to throw her to the zombies, there was no way she was going to wear the red nose that beat. A girl had to maintain some standards. The end.